Well, the drama surrounding Biden's classified documents is steaming. House Republicans are now slamming the National Archives. Now, we told you yesterday about the Archives' response to the House Oversight Committee, but the committee is far from satisfied. The committee asked the Archives to turn over all communication records that they have between the Archives and Biden's personal lawyers on or about November 2nd. Now, that's the date the first batch of documents was found in an office building, a closet, a locked closet in downtown Washington, D.C. The office space was rented to the Penn Biden Center. That very same day that the first batch of documents was found, November 2nd, the Archives was notified by Biden's personal lawyers. The House Oversight Committee wants to know how that exchange between the personal lawyers and the Archives went down. And 2 days ago on Tuesday, the National Archives wrote a letter to the House Oversight Committee. And what did it say? The same thing that every party involved has been saying. It said nothing. The Archives merely deferred to the Department of Justice. And as you can imagine, that non-answer has Republicans on the Oversight Committee mad. So now the Republicans are hitting back. Congressional correspondent Kilmeny Ducard has the story. Kilmeny?
Greta, good to be with you. In the wake of the discovery of those classified documents, the House Oversight Committee has been investigating whether political bias exists at the National Archives, citing the failure to disclose the matter to congressional Republicans. In her response to Chairman James Comer's request for information, the acting archivist, Deborah Steedle-Wall, defended accusations that the National Archives had been consistent and transparent in their responses to President Biden and former Trump. Well, in September, President Biden's nominee to lead the Archives, Colleen Shogan, she faced tough questions during her confirmation hearing from Republican senators.
In an unusual situation, it wasn't just the FBI carrying out the raid, but it was the request of the National Archives. Should this be a voluntary cooperation rather than a legal raid with a search warrant?
But as I understand it, when there is some concern about missing or damaged records in general at the National Archives, at that point in time, the records, to retrieve the records, there is a voluntary exchange of communication with those individuals.
Senator Josh Hawley and others questioning her ability to be impartial when she penned an article in 2007 on Republican populism.
You wrote an article saying basically that Republican voters are stupid, that Republican presidents deliberately appeal to anti-intellectualism. You roll it all up in this thing called Republican populism, yet you're trying to present yourself here as a nonpartisan. In fact, you're an extreme partisan, and your record shows that.
I will stand by my long experience, over 15 years of nonpartisan service.
Greta, of course, the GOP right now renewing its calls not only to investigate the National Archives, but of course, as Congressman Scott Perry said on your program last night, maybe investigate the archivist herself. And you can hear just how contentious that Senate hearing was earlier last year, again, grilling somebody over what's a very, very important job.
And you would think it'd be so tame, too. You just collect records.
Yeah.
I mean, shame. It's gotten like
right.
such a, such a hot seat. Anyway, Kilmeny, thank you. Kilmeny Ducard. And today, the House Oversight Committee announcing that it is launching an investigation into the Biden administration's handling of the border crisis. Committee Chair James Comer is inviting 4 Border Patrol sector chiefs to testify before the committee beginning the week of February 6th. Now, Comer is also asking DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for documents and communication records pertaining to DHS's handling of the border crisis. Kentucky Republican and new chairman of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee, Congressman James Comer, joins me. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
First, let me find out, do you think you're going to get these records from that you're asking for from the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Mayorkas?
Well, I hope so. I mean, these aren't significant ask here. These are records that I think every American deserves to have access to. Our job on the Oversight Committee is to provide oversight, to be a check and balance of this administration. Now, they've gone 2 years without any oversight, and they may not realize, but this is the normal process. So we're not asking for anything out of the ordinary. I think every American realizes there's a crisis at the border. Now, we can all speculate on who's to blame for that crisis. I could make a strong argument that it's this president and this administration, but we want to have an impartial hearing, and we want to get answers from the people on the front lines.
Well, here's what the Secretary Mayorkas says at a conference today in Washington, D.C. He praised the Biden administration's work on the southern border. Here's what he said.
We're executing a comprehensive strategy to secure our borders and build a safe, orderly, and humane immigration system.
Is he, sir?
No, they are not. And what are they building? I mean, it's time to do it. It was time to do it the day they took office. They've been in office over 2 years. It gets a little worse every day. And we've been to the border several times. I speak to members of Congress who represent the border in both parties, the border states. I mean, it is a crisis. The property owners are furious. The law enforcement's furious. Every state is a border state because of the Biden open border policies. We all are just flushed with fentanyl. There's human trafficking stories just about on a weekly basis in all 50 states. It's because we don't have a secure border. And what we want to do on the Oversight Committee is put a price tag on this. Who's paying for the health care for these illegals? Who's paying to transport these illegals? Who's providing food for these illegals and shelter for these illegals? I mean, this is very expensive for the working, tax-paying people of America, and they're fed up with it, not to mention the spike in crime in our big cities. So we've got to get serious on the border. This administration's living in fantasy land if they believe that they've actually done anything but hurt the border security in our country. Go ahead.
So what happens, though? You bring the four Border Patrol, the chiefs of the different sectors, before the committee beginning February 6th, and I assume they're going to tell, they're going to paint a picture of what we see on TV with people crossing the border. But then what? Are there committees in Congress that are working on legislation to change things? I mean, we can look at the problem and look at the problem, but where's the route to the solution?
A lot of the immediate solution could have been if the Senate had stuck with us and it just passed a continuing resolution where we could withhold funding for other parts of the government and said, look, we'll provide funding for all these areas of the government that we feel aren't as essential as you all, if you will provide border security. I mean, this is basic homeland security. A nation without borders is no nation. We deserve to have a federal government that's serious about border control. And this government, not only are they not serious about it, they welcome this. They want these people coming over here. They could care less what it's costing the working, tax-paying American every day for all the expenses related to these illegals. They want these new people over here for whatever reason. And I think most people that realize what's going on at the southern border, most people that have had fentanyl crisis in their family and their communities, they want something done, and that's what the Republicans are going to do. And this administration is going to have to get used to it. We're going to let people on the front lines tell the story of what's really going on, and we're going to try to do something about it.
All right, my colleague Kilmeny Dukart just reported about the archives and the accusation, at least by there was a Republican accusing the archivist who was nominated as being partisan. Do you intend as oversight to summon the acting head of archives over to testify before oversight? And if so, what are you going to ask? What do you want to know?
Well, we want to know questions we've been asking all along, and they respond and say, well, we have to refer it to the Department of Justice. We can't answer your questions. Look, this isn't a complicated situation we have here. There's a problem, apparently, with how documents go from the president and vice president once they leave office to the private sector. So we want to know how we can fix that problem. From a legislative standpoint, we've got to reform the way the archives does business, or else, we shouldn't have raids on former presidents' homes over documents. We shouldn't have, general counsels, special counsels appointed to investigate the current and former president over documents. I mean, there's a problem with the National Archives. So at the very least, the National Archives needs to come in and explain to us the process, and we need to have an open discussion about how to fix it. Now, we also want to know, why was Donald Trump's home raided and President Biden's home, not only was it not raided, his personal attorneys are getting to rummage around and say, oh, well, we found this and we turned it in, we found that. Everyone in America that's keeping up with this story sees that this is not equal treatment under the law.
Okay, one of my former networks, and I've been a lot of networks, Fox News is reporting that U.S. Secret Service is prepared to offer names of individuals who visited President Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home if requested by Congress. Now, they don't keep logs, but they have to do some sort of review of who comes in there. And the Secret Service was there the last year and a half since he's been president. So the question is, do you intend to ask the Secret Service for the names of individuals who visited Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is something that's very important. We know Hunter Biden resided at that home, and I could talk all day about how big of a national security risk he is. We also know that then Vice President Biden ran his presidential campaign out of that basement. Remember, he spent a lot of time in that basement, which served him well during the campaign. So there were a lot of people in and out of that house where these classified documents were held. And we know Secret Service was there. And Secret Service, you would assume, would be vetting people coming in and out. So we know the Secret Service keeps notes. We know there was correspondence and emails. They had to verify who was going in and who was going out. They had to do background checks on them. So we know their records, and we welcome working with the Secret Service to determine who all had access to those classified documents.
Congressman James Comer, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. Your retirement funds are being threatened with even more losses from record inflation, recession, and skyrocketing interest rates. Fortunately, the highly trained specialists at American Hartford Gold can show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. If you call them right now as a special offer, they will give you a free gold coin on your first qualifying order, so don't wait. Call 866-935-4309. That's 866-935-4309, or text Newsmax to 65532. That's Newsmax to 65532.